Hello, it's Amanda. Why am I speaking to you at the top of the episode, you may ask? That's because I need to tell you that we recorded this episode almost 2 months ago. Now, am I telling you this because we addressed current events that have since drastically changed? No. This is because apparently we talked about turkey so much that Allison said, please, I cannot edit out all of the talk of turkey. Because we recorded this the day after Thanksgiving, and I have strong feelings about turkey that, we should stop pretending that it's good because it's not. Anyway, enjoy this blast from the past, and by blast from the past, I mean blast from less than 2 months ago. Welcome to Wow True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're here to dissect the entire internet, something normal to want and possible to achieve. I'm science fiction author, not your attorney, and convention panelist, Isabel J. Kim.
And I'm Amanda Silberling, an internet culture reporter and person who is 98% of the way through Isabel's book. Anyone could be famous on the internet, so why not us?
So how are you liking the first 98% of the book?
You know, the first 98% have been good, but the last 2% we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Exactly.
You know when you told me I'll be ready to record in 20 minutes, and I'm like, I feel like there's about 30 minutes left of this book, so here we go.
See, now I'm in agony. We're gonna record this podcast, and then you're gonna spend 10 more minutes, reading the book.
I've been reading your book in a really deranged way, which I think is useful for you, because it's I feel like normal people read things in ways that we would consider deranged, because I think we both usually read books very quickly, and for some reason this book has taken me a long time to read, not because of the book, just because I've been, traveling a lot, and some shit has been going on in life, and the election happened also. It's been a wild time, but I am now at my parents' house, which is why my audio sounds like shit, and I do my best reading at my parents' house because they have a comfy couch, and I just sit on the comfy couch and read books.
Honestly, that's so real. I feel like parents' house is consuming media time. Reading the book you've been putting off, finally watching a TV show, shit like that. Because you are stuck in your parents' house.
Are you familiar with the show Shrinking?
Is that in any way related to the movie Downsizing?
No.
Okay, then no.
I don't know what that movie is.
It's a bad movie. It's about a world where you can get a surgery to become a tiny person, and then that tiny person takes up less resources so you can live like a king. But it also causes problems because you're a tiny guy now.
That's so funny.
And it's called Downsizing, which I actually think is an incredible title for this. It's apparently very bad. Don't watch it. No, it's old. It's it flopped. It sucked.
We should watch it.
Oh my god.
Patreon watch along.
We could have our own death blurt.
So I get home and my parents are like, you have to watch this show. And it's about a therapist whose wife dies and he goes off the rails. And I'm like, this made you think of me?
Yeah, wait. Hey, is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they just showed it to you because it's a good show.
It's a good show, but they were like, you have to watch it.
Sorry your parents think you need therapy.
I mean, I do need therapy.
I know, but sorry that your parents think it.
Yeah. This is gonna be a post-Thanksgiving vibe and hang episode because I'm at my parents' house. Isabel is going on a trip with her parents. And we're like, we should make content.
Yeah, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks, so I'm maybe we should put some content in the pipeline. Although I think by the time this airs, I'll be back. I'm going to be going on a cruise ship, which I have not exactly issues with. I feel like cruise ships are not the most ecologically friendly forms of transportation. Not that planes are good, but it's also one of those things where my mom is really into cruise ships, so then I get stuck on a cruise ship every once in a while. And it always kind of annoys me. I enjoy parts of it. But it does annoy me because there's always 3 or 4 days where the internet is absolute dog shit, and she always plans these during times when I actually need the internet.
Yeah.
Which is just a peak mom thing to do, but it's fine. It'll all be fine.
I like how your thing with your parents is that they're surprise, we're eating you on a cruise, and my parents are watch this TV show about a deranged therapist who goes off the rails.
My mom is also giving me a million right-wing books to read. I'm not going to get into my relationship with my mom and her choice in media content, but my god, has she given me a lot of right-wing books to read that I don't believe in, that are objectively bad.
At Thanksgiving yesterday, my brother mentioned that Mark Andreessen went on Joe Rogan, and I was like, I need you to just not say that ever again.
That
He wasn't
sucks.
endorsing it. He was just saying, oh, there's a lot of memes about it because it's ridiculous. And I'm like, literally, bro, because you're my brother. I can't do this. Yeah, this will probably be public-ish by the time this episode comes out, but I am very likely to be taking a bit of a break from work because reasons that I don't have to get into on the podcast.
It's free taking a break from work. It's hot unemployment fall, except you're not unemployed, you're just taking a break.
Yeah, when things happen that require breaks and corporations sometimes enable that to be a thing.
To be clear to our listeners, it's nothing like nobody fucking died. It's fine.
Which is shocking in my life because people are always dying.
That's grim as hell, but it's also true.
No one died this time. It's
no
crazy.
one died this time. It's fine.
But I'm like very specifically like, hello, while I'm on this break, I do not want to talk about Mark Andreessen. And yet, I know so much about Mark Andreessen.
I do feel like in some ways you got your dream job, but you also got like the cursed job, which is that like you were forced to know about the internet professionally. And no, like genuinely, like I think one of the issues with your job is that, which is the same issue with my job right now, which is it's very much one of those things where it's like, let's take your hobby and turn it into your job, but also make it more cursed. You know, because it's like internet stuff, but now you have to write about it all the time. And now you know too much about what's going on with like the tech world and Mark Andreessen.
Yeah, and this is kind of, when it comes to the podcast, it's like, well, if you're on a leave from work, what do you do about podcast?
It's simple. We just have a bunch of guests.
Yeah, it's Amanda Doesn't Do Research Month, and we're going to talk to some people about some things, and this episode is especially deranged because we have both eaten turkey recently. And you know what? I have a hot take about Thanksgiving.
Sure, go for me.
No one likes turkey.
That's not a hot take. Everyone agrees on that.
I tried lobbying, and by lobbying I mean asking if my parents wanted to just do like a roast chicken this year instead, and my dad was like, how dare you?
That's what my mom's response would be too. I think my mom is like the one person who likes turkey. Also, okay, so I feel bad because I slandered my mother earlier. She's also given me books about, for once for my birthday, she gave me a couple of right-wing books, but also like the Gulag Archipelago and a bunch of like Solzhenitsyn books. And also she's given me like 4 books about like the I Ching. So the breadth of like content that this woman is giving me is truly insane. Anyway.
I also feel like your relationship with your mom is very funny to me because all I know is that sometimes she calls you when we're recording and then you start talking in Korean and then you're like, I don't speak Korean, and I'm like, well, what was that then?
That was extremely shitty Korean. Next question.
And then also that she also read your book and has a lot of notes on it.
She had like 7 pages of notes on it. Okay, wait, let's go back to talking about my book, because that one has 7 pages of notes and about half of them were bad and the other half were like useful, but it's also one of those weird things where like, okay, good reasons to write a book. Your parents will just start telling you weird shit about stuff that you don't know about because it's kind of related to the book. Okay, so like in my book, there's a bunch of stuff about like funerals and like graves and stuff. It's not a grimdark book, but it is kind of like the people.
A funeral
die.
happens.
Yeah, a funeral happens and it kicks off the story. And then my mom like told me like, yeah, the reason that your grandpa's like buried where he is in the middle of fucking nowhere is that because him and the other people from his village, which was in North Korea, bought that burial plot together because it faces North Korea. And I'm like, what the fuck? Somebody should have told me that earlier. That's an incredible detail about that guy's life. I know nothing about this man. That guy apparently also sucked.
Yeah, you know when your relatives sometimes just kind of suck.
But the thing is that like all of his suckage was when he was younger and I just knew an old guy. And I'm like, that's just some old guy whose apartment we have to go to. I'm related to him.
That's just a guy.
That's just a guy. I mean...
That's just, Harabaji.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Thank you. Could I try another one?
Yeah, go for it.
So Young.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Also, my mom was really on my case about like 2 things. First, can you take all the Korean out of it? And I was like, Mom, white people love to be confused. Like, I literally said that to her. And then I asked some white people, and they were like, yeah, we love to be confused. And I was like,
that's so true, because one of the main characters in the book is named So Young. And there's a part in the book where they're like, and a white person pronounced so young, like so young. And I'm like, oh no. And then I looked up, how do you pronounce so young?
I mean, it's just like so young. It's like, it's
just like a little quicker.
Yeah, it's just a little quicker. It's actually not that different. It's just, I should probably take that out because I think I have more beef with it than she would because her name is easier to pronounce. The other thing she said is I should be nicer to white people because I'm dating a white guy. And then I told the white guy this, and they were like, "You should be meaner to white people."
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, nice, I'm absolved." And she also said, "Can you stop naming people after people you know? That's fucking weird."
Roshan.
Roshan mentioned. I have to take Roshan out of this, but she doesn't know that
No.
Roshan prominently features in the next book, so it's okay.
No. Okay. So, for those who don't know, Isabel has a friend named Roshan, and it's a bit that in every story Isabel writes, there's a character named Roshan.
Yeah, Roshan just reads like a lot of my shit, so I just feel
But
like he deserves
Roshan
it.
comes up like literally the word Roshan is mentioned
Like
one
once.
time
It's one
in
time.
the book. And when I got to it, I was like, Roshan mentioned.
Maybe I keep Roshan's name. I don't know. I asked him for other
Literally
Indian
nobody
names.
will notice it.
Except for my mother, because she was also like, you can't name your main character so young. That was the name of your like childhood best friend, and what if she reads it? And I was like, it's fine. It is actually the name of my childhood best friend, who I named the main character after, because I thought I was gonna write a short story when I was 23 and nobody reads those, and now it has turned into a whole thing. I've not talked
How
with this
common
lady.
of a name is it in Korea?
It's like normal. It's not a weird name. It's not as common as my name. Like, so my name, for context, Kim Ji-young, is
Mhm.
the Emily Smith of Korean names. Like, that is the Emily Smith of Korean names. You cannot get a more generic girl's name than that from my generation, or like the generation a little bit prior. The only weird thing is that my first name is spelled like they would spell a boy's name in Chinese characters, because usually you would do something like pretty, like, oh, like she's like flower, she's beautiful, shit like that. Mine, the characters for mine are destined for glory. Which is a real like dude name to have.
That's lit. That rules.
It kind of rules. It's a good name. Anyway,
Destined
that's
for
Isabel lore.
glory when you
Yeah.
write your book that your mom criticizes.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, my mom told me that, and I was like, this was like a couple of years ago, and I was just kind of like, that's kind of like a lot to see like a baby girl, and you go, like, you know what? That's a name for a baby. That's what this baby's name is.
Yeah, also because you're the only child, so I feel like the decisions are also so like intense.
Yeah.
Because I do think it is a true thing that when people have multiple children, the first child, they're like, oh fuck, it's a baby. And then the next children, they're like, it's a baby.
We got this. It's a baby.
Yeah, like my friend who has two moms, and they needed sperm donors for her and her brothers, and she's the oldest. So in the like sperm donor directory, they have like descriptions of the people. So for her, they were looking for like smart, kind, athletic, courageous, like intellectual, and like they picked this very like princely man who
A
just was
princely
like,
man.
I don't know.
I mean, he's not that princely. He's a sperm donor. Like, he's got shit going on.
So for her, I mean, yeah, she is smart and athletic and kind. But then for her brothers, who were like twin brothers that came second, they were like, let's pick the sperm donor whose description is party animal.
That's just inviting chaos into your home. That's kind of good.
But the thing is that her brothers are just like two nice boys that like to play video games.
Well, that's this generation's definition of partying.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
friends with one of them on Switch, and sometimes I'm like, good for Chris, he's playing Mario Kart. Good for that guy who I've only met over FaceTime a few times.
Maybe he'll get older and become a party animal.
Yeah, you know, the arc of life is long. Like how your grandpa apparently was a shithead and then later was just a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was like a huge shithead. I think he was a shithead within normal bounds. Like, he was probably fine. Who can say?
I feel like this is a phenomenon of as you get older, your parents just start like dropping lore that they didn't tell you when you were younger because they weren't gonna like tell you bad shit about your relatives when you were like 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
No, for real. It's like truly a real phenomenon that like the older you get, the more like you learn about the family beef. And like generations of the family beef.
Yeah.
The thing is, my mom's like the oldest sibling on her side of the family, so apparently all of the adults were telling her their family beef, and then she has been telling me their family beef of all of these dead people.
Oh, that rules.
There was a lot of like drama. There's like dead people and stuff. I mean, like dead people for other reasons than the normal dead reasons.
Well, anyway, I'm 98% of the way through your book, and so far, I think it's really good, but nice. I don't know, you could lose me in the last 2%.
Fuck, it's just like a sports game. when they play
Yeah.
sports and they absolutely whiff it in the last 2 minutes.
Well, the thing is this isn't really a spoiler, but I am 98% of the way through the book and I don't know how it resolves. So we'll see. We'll have to
Nice.
see how it resolves.
I'm gonna be real, like the next version changes the ending significantly, and also like, so the last couple of weeks I've been bitching about this constantly to people, is that I've been editing the last 3 sections of the book just to make things
Mhm.
flow better and have like more, to make things make more sense, and also to make things be more interesting, and to add like plot wheels going and stuff, and also taking out some stuff. So the ending's gonna change, but I feel like the vibe of the ending is not changing. So I don't know. Let me
But
know
are
when
you
you're done.
taking out the scene that involves nudity and a
No, no, I'm
knife?
keeping that. I'm keeping naked knife fight. I think
I
that's good.
I love the fact that people aren't going to read this book for like over a year and I could just be like, the naked knife fight scene.
Yeah, it's literally not coming out for like a year and a half. Naked knife fight.
Naked
I
knife
thought that was a
fight.
good scene.
Oh no, that was like, I mean, I texted you after I read it,
Yeah.
but I was like, because it's meant to be a dramatic scene, but it's like one of the funniest scenes in the book, but it's also like one of the most dramatic scenes in the book.
As it should be, because like, I don't know, like when I got to that part of the book, I was like, alright, people need to start doing things instead of just thinking about them. They spend too much time thinking about things. Naked knife fight. I swear to God it makes sense in context.
It's really good. This book, I can't wait until the book is like available for pre-order and I can do a whole campaign and be like, guys, there's a naked knife fight.
Please do. That would be the funniest way to market it. Naked knife fight.
That's the name of this episode. Naked knife fight.
That's actually really good. We should call it that. Should I talk about going to the convention, speaking of book shit?
Yeah. And we have to talk about the meal that we had after the convention.
The meal that we had after the convention. The hot ass. The hot ass of it all. Yeah, everyone, I'm so sorry. All you're getting is us just talking. It's the day after Thanksgiving. We're chilling. We're vibing.
People like the just vibing sometimes.
People love the vibes.
Sometimes you want to learn a thing, and sometimes you want to be like, wow, now I have to wait a year and a half to find out about naked knife fight.
Well, I'm going to tell people about Shibata, so maybe that's like enough, a consolation prize for not knowing about the naked knife fight.
And I'm going to tell people about hot ass.
Oh god. Okay, so I went to a convention in Philly, not in Philly, but like in Cherry Hill last weekend. I've spent so much fucking time in Philadelphia in the last like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen you like 3 times in the last 2 weeks, which is crazy.
Which is like way more than average. Honestly, it's a vibe. I should go down to Philly more because it's actually quite a cheap train ticket when you buy it far in advance. You should come up to New York. You could see my not podcast dungeon.
Isabel's boyfriend is a lot more convinced than Isabel, but Isabel's boyfriend is extremely Philadelphia pilled right now, and I'm like, let's go.
I think they really liked your apartment building because it was so fucking weird, and that's the sort of thing
It's really weird.
It's so weird. I mean, I was also into it, but like they were like really into it.
Yeah, I don't want to give too many details because, but
the vibe is insane.
The vibe is insane because it's one of those buildings that it used to be another thing, and then the thing was abandoned, and then fancy New York real estate company comes in and buys it and makes it apartments.
Mm-hmm.
But like it very clearly was a different thing first.
And it's like it's clear from the details that they left behind what thing it was, which is like that's just a good vibe. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's spooky as hell.
One of the best parts of it is that I feel like for decorations for the hallways, which the hallways do not need decorations. Like they're like it just doesn't need to be there. They just ordered in bulk. They just went to like overstock.com or some shit and just ordered like give me a bunch of random canvases. And then so there's like canvases of like this is a picture of a dog.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a screen print of a comic thing. This is like a reproduction of a painting of a train station. Like there's just all of these really weird, really random, like unframed canvases that have been printed on. And the first time a friend of mine visited the apartment, she was like, we should just print something weird and exchange it and nobody will ever know.
She's literally right though. Like you could just do that. Like it wouldn't even look out of place because all of the art in there is like randomly generated art.
It's also like one of those apartment buildings that like in the lobby, they're trying to be bougie. There's a lobby, which is bougie in itself. Keep in mind that the cost of living in Philadelphia is significantly lower than other major cities.
God, like honestly, your place is so much less expensive than my place, and it is like and a lot of the amenities are comparable.
No, I feel like when I tell people what I pay for rent in Philly, I'm like a little embarrassed about it. And when I tell people what I pay for rent to like people that live in New York, I'm like, I'm rich, bitch.
Do you know how much I pay? I'm not even in New York, and it's like so many
Probably
dollars.
like 2 or 3 times as much as I pay.
It's probably 2 times as much as you're paying. Oh, I saw the podcast dungeon.
Oh, yes.
Very good space. I see why you don't use it to record in. The acoustics in there are not amazing.
Yeah. The thing about the podcast dungeon is Hank Green was wrong.
Oh?
When Hank Green told me to make a podcast dungeon, he didn't know, and I didn't know, that there's no airflow down there. So in the winter, it is very cold, and in the summer, it is very hot. And if you put a fan on, then the noise gets picked up, and then that's annoying.
My new pitch for it is that you should just create like a reading nook or something like that.
Yeah, it's also just kind of like weird down there.
It is kind of weird down there, but I feel like if you put enough like stuff around it, you could create kind of an interesting vibe. It would be very Pylam though.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just using it essentially as like a garage right now where I have like a bookcase and like sports equipment and like an air mattress, like not inflated, but like it lives down there. I have like suitcases that I store down there. Like it's just kind of like all my junk and like a lot of yarn.
You're using it as a basement. You're using it as like a normal person uses their basement.
Yeah, but it's a dungeon.
But it's a dungeon. Also, Amanda's house is filled with pottery, and she gave me some, and it was good. That's not exciting to anybody, but it was just kind of like, I was not expecting the amount of pottery in your house because I felt like you kept pulling more pottery out, and I'm like, damn, this bitch does make pottery.
Yeah, that's the thing is that in order to get better at pottery, because I've been doing pottery for like, I guess like maybe like a year and a third now. And when you're learning, you get exponentially better so much quicker because you're like first learning it. So like you make something and then a week later you're like, oh, that thing I made a week ago sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have to keep making stuff to get better at it, and that includes like you need to go through the different firings so you learn like what works in glazing, so you just end up with so much fucking pottery. And then I'm like so desperate to give it to people, but I think I went a little too hard because I have like another friend, the friend who suggested that we make canvases and switch out the art.
Mm-hmm.
And she and her roommate like genuinely like really really deeply appreciate the pottery and like love when I give them stuff and are like super nice about it. So I gave them a ton of stuff and they're very excited about it, and I'm excited that they're excited. And then another friend of mine was going to visit her family for Thanksgiving, and she has kind of like an iffy relationship with her extended family. And she was like looking at my pottery and I was like, oh, do you want to like take something? And she was like, yes. And then she took like probably like 6 things and was like, I'm going to give this to my family as gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was like, whatever.
But now you're like, oh God, I'm getting low on pottery.
Yeah. Now I'm like, I essentially made her family gifts for free.
I'm not saying you should start charging people, but I do think you should be a little bit more judicious about who you're giving the pottery to then. On the other hand, you did have so much fucking pottery, and it did seem like you needed more space for more pottery.
Like now I'm like, oh shit, like I only have a couple weeks until like things need to be finished because like holidays, and I do have probably like 20 pieces in progress, but yeah, on my leave, among other things that are more related to reasoning for leave, I'm being so vague about like literally everything in this episode, like naked knife fight and me being on leave.
No, this is good.
Work.
You're being mysterious. That's what the people crave.
People want mystery. I mean,
meanwhile, I'm talking about my mortgage, so you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're in the Discord, I'll like tell you what's going on. It's like not a big deal.
This is a plug for the Discord.
If you give us money, then in the Discord, I'm just like, yeah, this is what's happening. It's fine. Whatever. I don't care.
We exchange cash for secrets.
Yes. Although I don't think we could tell you about the naked knife fight because I think Tor McMillan would be mad about it.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that because Carl would send me an email with like a frowny face. Oh, wait, did I talk about going to the Tor offices yet? on the
Yes.
pod? Nice.
We didn't talk about the convention though, because then I started talking about my apartment and hot asses, which we haven't talked about the
Wait, we
hot
have to
asses
talk
yet
about the
either.
hot ass before the convention.
Okay, so there's this restaurant that I suggested we go to because it was in the general area and I like it and their food is good. And they're one of those places where, like, during the pandemic, they built like a whole outdoor area, but they just like kept it. And it's like sort of winter in Philly now. Like, it was probably like 50 degrees out that day. Like,
It
it's
was cold
like,
enough that you wouldn't want to sit outside without like a structure to
yeah.
contain you.
But so in this structure, they had heaters, and that's fine. The heaters were like a normal amount of heat, but the benches were heated.
And like it would have been delightful if it was not so hot. This was like creating ass of such hotness that it was unsittable. Like they pay me for my words, but like literally, like we were all putting our jackets beneath our ass because it was too hot to prevent our ass from being so hot.
Yeah, and I have a friend who works at this restaurant, but like I haven't talked to them in a while. Like, just like, I don't know, when there's people that you're just kind of like acquaintance friends with, and like if you see them on the street, you're like, oh, hey, what's up, my boy? But then you're not like texting them regularly. And I forgot that last time I went to this restaurant, which was like probably over a year ago, they worked there and I saw them and we were like, what up? And then from afar, I was like, is that my friend? And then I asked our server, like, oh, is person's name working? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, hey, I mean, if they have a second to come over, like, let them know. And they didn't come over, but also this happened like at the end of when we were there. And also it was busy. So I don't know, maybe that friend secretly hates me. Point being, I really want to ask them about the hot ass.
You should ask them about the hot ass. I think that's an incredible segue into either having a conversation or realizing they don't want to talk about hot ass with you.
I feel like they would want to talk about hot ass with me.
Truly, truly hot ass.
But like, we were sitting on our coats because it was so hot, which a normal person would be like, hello, person who works here, is there a way to turn down the hot assimeter? But we didn't do that.
I'm gonna be real, I didn't even think of doing that because I kind of just assumed there was one setting to the hot ass, and between no hot ass and like too hot ass, I was like, I'm gonna take too hot ass with like cushioning because it was kind of cold.
If you live in Philadelphia and you go to the restaurant called Sally, because you know how sometimes now restaurants are just like named people?
I have beef against that because I'm like, that's a weird thing to do. That's not a person.
It's different when it's like a restaurant that's like Sabrina's Cafe, but when it's just Sally.
That being said, good restaurant. Like I would go back.
They had natural wines and I learned about skin contact.
I don't think they should be called skin contact wines. Like, I get what they're doing here with the grape skins, but like, it does make me feel like somebody reached their hands into the wine and was like, "Yes, we're massaging all of this wet wine, and now it's ready."
Before this dinner, because when I had been there before, I've just like never gotten wine there, but they have like a bunch of natural wines and they're like a natural wine place. But also just the food's good, which is why I like it. But like, I had the thought a couple months ago because people on my softball team were talking about how they're getting into natural wine, and I was like, I should be a person who gets into natural wine. That
Oh
seems
my
like a
god.
good bit. This seems like how in 2019 I was brewing kombucha. Like, this is a good bit.
That actually would be a really good sequel to you brewing kombucha.
Yeah, but then Joe got natural wine and I tried some of it and I was like, eh. And then
Yeah.
Joe was like, oh, well, sometimes natural wine tastes like cheese. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's the thing, is natural wine gets weirder. I don't know anything about wine other than drinking it. Does that help? Joe
Yeah.
knows like a lot about wine, but like in a parentheses derogatory way, in like the way where they are like, most of what people say about wine is bullshit. You know the thing where you know about stuff, so then you call out everyone else who knows about things? That's my assumption on how they are with wines.
Interesting. But how was the convention aside from our hot ass dinner?
Oh, wait, one more thing to say on the subject of wines. One of my friends did brew Baja Blast wine,
Oh no.
and it is in Joe's fridge, and I did try it, and it's not that bad. It's kind of fine. It doesn't taste that much
What
like
is
Baja
Baja
Blast.
Blast wine?
It's when you make wine with the soda Baja Blast.
Is this like Gator wine?
It's like Gator wine, except it's Mountain Dew. I I probably talked about this on the pod before because this is the sort of thing I would talk about on the pod. But
No, you haven't, because I've never heard this before, and I'm
oh
troubled by
yeah,
it.
yeah, it is. It is pale blue. So my friend Victor, shout out to Victor, made a crime.
All of Isabel's friends that I know through Isabel are like really into making terrible food, and I'm like, why don't you
No,
just
no,
eat good food?
Victor will usually make things that are good. Victor actually knows things about stuff, and Victor is usually the one who's like participating on the periphery when me and Ashley and Max are making some sort of horrible food crime, and he's into it in the sense that this is like fun for him to like deride, but also he will participate a little bit. However, the Baja Blast wine, that is all on him. He made that. Because this is a dude who knows how to like brew beer and shit and like make wine.
Yeah, this is a guy who has like probably like the most fully stocked liquor stock in his home than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, like this guy's like special interest is alcohols, and he has like a
He has a
spreadsheet to keep.
spreadsheet.
He has
Yeah.
a spreadsheet, yeah.
Oh god.
Well, he made Baja
I should
Blast
have a
wine.
pottery spreadsheet.
That's actually, honestly, you probably should. You have so much fucking pottery.
Yeah, but now I don't because my friend took all of it to
You're
give
gonna
to
make
her
more.
family.
It's fine. It's fine.
And it's like it yeah, I mean it's like
I can tell
at
you're
the-
salty about this. Okay, so Baja Blast wine did taste a little bit like Baja Blast. Also, just for context, this is a guy whose kitchen I made the Baja Blast pie in because his wife, my friend, also, like, she is really into Baja Blast, which is why all this happens. She's normal. She's regular.
She's deranged parentheses appreciative.
She's so normal. Yeah, so the Baja Blast wine is in Joe's fridge, and we have not drunk more than, like, a cup of it. On account of it is Baja Blast wine.
How long will it be good for?
I have no idea. I hope it's still good. Like, we got this months ago.
Oh god.
It's
You've
probably
had
fine.
Baja Blast wine in Joe's fridge for months, and you haven't mentioned it.
You know, I'm gonna be real, I totally forgot about the Baja Blast wine.
I wish I could forget.
That's okay. I'm sure that after this episode is over, you will never think of it again.
So how was the convention?
Yeah, okay, convention. So I went to PhilCon in Cherry Hill, which is outside of Philly. Like, I was like invited to go there, so I decided this was in my era of I was saying yes to everything, but specifically pushing back all of my commitments to November / going to things that were happening in November because I was like, yeah, after that my job's over. I can just do things. Which led to me having like 3 weekends in a row of just like I have to go do shit outside of the city, and which was like, it's too much stuff. But anyway, the convention. So first of all, I didn't know that the DoubleTree hotels that you could just get a free cookie. Like, they will just give you free cookies whenever you ask for them. So this
That's
is a tip
lit.
for everybody. Just ask for the free warm cookie, and you can do it anytime, and they will just give you a free cookie as long as you're staying there. And I'm like, this is great. Infinite cookie hack.
Infinite cookie.
Other than that, it was like, honestly, like, convention was kind of boring. I feel like the thing about science fiction conventions, especially regional ones, is that they haven't really done a good job of marketing to people who do not already go to them. So the people who go usually tend to be like a pretty insular group of like older people who have been going to conventions for fucking ever, which I think is sort of a shame because I think it's the sort of thing that could be interesting if there were more people in like their 20s and 30s who were going, but they're not. And so mostly what I did is I was on a bunch of panels. And the best one I was on was the one that was talking about humor and writing science fiction, probably because people who are funny are better panelists. Like, I literally
Yeah.
think that's what it is.
Naked knife fight.
Yeah, exactly. Highlights from all of these panels I was on. I cannot stress you, I was on like 4 or 5 panels in like one day, and I was like, this is too many panels. Stop putting me on panels. One of the highlights was a guy who was sitting next to me. I have no fucking idea who this dude is, but this was on like a fairy tales and horror panel, and after it was over, he was pitching his Magas versus Zombies series where he had to rewrite it to add in JD Vance.
Oh no.
Like, to be clear, he was on the right side of history in this, in the sense that like the Magas get eaten by the zombies, but it was also kind of like, dog, what?
Yeah.
The guy in the humor panel who asked a question about, so people thought my first book was funny, but my second book wasn't. How do I fix that? And we were all kind of just like,
I
we
don't know,
can't help
man.
you, man. We don't know what's going on here.
People ask like absolutely insane questions to panelists. I was at a panel that Mr. Beast was speaking on, and somebody stood up and was like, what if I could tell you that with one simple trick, you could double your ad revenue? And she was trying to like pitch her product, and Mr. Beast was like, I'm okay, thanks. And then people were like booing her.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that people want to talk about their stuff, and they have more of a comment than a question a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, also highlights was I was in a how to do your cover letter panel, essentially for books. And like I was the only person who had sold a book to a major publisher in like the last 2 years there. The other people on there was like the editor of a small press, somebody who was like sold a lot of stuff but like previously, and then someone who was like pretty well known but like previously. And further context, there was a guy dressed as a Revolutionary War soldier in the audience because it's a con. People are just doing weird shit.
Okay.
And second, there was a woman who raised her hand about, hey, so I wrote a Revolutionary War novel, and it's better than all of the other Revolutionary War novels because it covers the entire span of the Revolutionary War, and not just one battle, but all of it. How do I find like comps for this? And comps being other books that you compare your book to see like what genre it's in, et cetera, et cetera. And we were just kind of like, well, you could compare it to the other ones, the ones that have sold the best. She's like, no, mine is better than all of theirs. All of the others are bad. And then we were like, well, you could compare it to other books that are about war stories that cover the entire span of a war or something. And she was just kind of trying to explain to us how much better her book was because it was factually accurate. And then in the middle of this, the guy who's dressed up as a Revolutionary War soldier gets up, walks out of the room. And I don't know why.
No, like, I feel like ambitious people are fed this thing about how you need to, like, be making connections. You need to be, like, putting yourself out there. And that's true, but not in the way you think.
Yeah, you shouldn't walk out of a convention panel dressed as a Revolutionary War soldier.
Like, your goal of going to a panel shouldn't be, like, I'm going to ask the people on the panel to, like, do labor for me. I was on a panel recently where it was about like culture writing, and somebody in the audience asked like, what is an internet rabbit hole that you fell into recently? And I talked about how I fell into an internet rabbit hole about the Barkley marathons, which is like a deranged marathon thing where you basically run one marathon per day for 5 days, but you're doing it like in the woods, and there's a prison nearby, and there's like a specific route, and if you mess up then like you're fucked. It's like insane. Look it up, it's a crazy rabbit hole. But then someone came up to me after the panel and was like, do you know there's a documentary about it? It's pretty good. And I was like, oh yeah, I heard about it, but I haven't seen it, I should check that out. And he was like, yeah,
That's a normal interaction.
that's what you should do on panels, is just be like, hey, there's a movie that you might like.
I feel like just being a normal person is the move.
I like how we're telling people just be a normal person, and then we're like, so I drink Baja Blast wine.
Yeah, that's being a normal person. No, like, I mean, honestly, I think part of this is that you need to be yourself, but you need to be not asking people to do crazy labor for you. Like, I thought it was totally fine that she asked about this question during the panel because it was a panel about, like, advice on doing your cover letter. But if she had come up afterwards and talked to me about it for, like, 20 minutes, that wouldn't have been okay.
Yeah, also at the panel where someone told me about the documentary, and I was like, cool. It was like a 4 p.m. panel, and I just like did not plan my day well, and like hadn't eaten enough beforehand. So there was like food after, and I very intentionally like made a plate of food and then like went to the back room where people weren't so I could just like eat food real quick. And this girl followed me, and she was like, sorry for following you, but how do I be a writer? And I was like, I don't know, like write about things.
This happened to me when, like, this 20-year-old girl at a different convention was basically following me and my friend around for, like, 15 minutes, and we didn't know how to get her to leave. Not in, like, a mean way, just in, it was, like, me and her hanging out, and then this other girl who wanted to ask me about, like, how to become a writer / how to get published, and I was just kind of like, you seem really nice, but I'm just trying to vibe right now.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, I don't even, like, give her shade for this because she was, like, 20. And, like, she was awkward about it, too, and I think she was just trying her best. But it's also kind of like, girl, stop it.
Yeah, the person who followed me was like graduated from college.
You can't do that shit when you graduated from college. You need to know how to interact.
Because this was like a Penn alumni event, and this person was a Penn alumni, so I assume that she's at least like 23.
Yeah, that's an adult. That's a full-ass, grown-ass adult right there.
Yeah, it's just like, you can ask people questions, but when the question is just, how do I be a writer? It's like, I don't know. Write things.
See, but the thing is, that's completely unhelpful advice to people. Like, okay, I feel like we both have careers where it's very much like the onboarding track to this career is nuts. Like, there's not a normal onboarding track, and a lot of it's just that you need to put in a lot of unpaid work, which is like not cool, and I have like opinions about that, but it's also kind of one of those things where nobody's going to pay you if you're not good yet.
Yeah. And in order to get good at it, you have to like practice.
Yeah. Wait, did we talk about me going down to Philly to talk to a bunch of pen kids?
I think we did briefly, but we can go more in depth. I like how, because I talked to the same group of pen kids a couple weeks ago, because it's like a program where it's seniors who want to go into publishing or journalism, and then they bring in like recent alumni to like talk. And like, there's one girl in the group who knows what Homestuck is, and I'm like, fuck yeah, you go.
You did seed that into my group, and I was like, thank you for the hell. Thank you for bringing my sins to me. I like the kids. I don't know. I was like, I felt like the advice I gave them was like not useful advice, but maybe it was useful advice.
I mean, I think that something I've realized is that, like, for me, I would get more valuable career advice from someone who's like 2 years older than me than from someone who's like 15 years older than me.
No,
because,
yeah, for sure. Because
like, being a journalist 15 years ago was you get a job at a local paper and you do a good job, and then you get a job at a national paper and then you do a good job, and then you get another job. And now getting a job as a journalist is like, I don't know, jump through 700 hoops and like roll a dice and get a d20 and then like try, and maybe you have a bad boss or maybe you don't.
sounds bad.
Yeah. And then you go on leave.
That's actually a crucial part of it. Yeah. No, because honestly, similarly, like that's how I felt when I was giving advice to people at the convention about like how do you publish a book, or like how do you get into publishing, because everyone else who was on the panel with me had advice that was either from this perspective of the editor or from the perspective of someone who had been like querying their first book like 20 years ago, which is like, that's a totally different landscape, and that's the landscape in which going to these conventions and stuff like that and meeting people was actually useful. And it is still kind of useful now if you randomly happen to talk to the right person, which is not guaranteed and probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that like the amount of people who want to write a book and have access to getting their book to a person, or like the amount of people who want to write a book has dramatically increased because it's way less of a barrier to entry to sending an email or something like that, as opposed to like literally printing out shit and sending it to people physically by mail. I think that layer of friction being gone has made it so that the pool of people who have written a book is way higher, so then standards are way higher as well. Especially, like, I don't know, I was talking with my editor and he was like, yeah, like, it's not enough to write a good book. You need to write something that people can't put down and want to talk about with their friends. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like well written, but it needs to be memeable. It needs like, and that's a really high bar. Anyway, I got nothing. Nobody should write a book. Then you end up like me having to write a book. Does that help?
Yeah, that's stressful.
Hello, welcome to the mid-roll. It's Amanda, and we gotta shout out our newest patrons, Will and Gabby, although full disclosure, you know when it's the holidays and everything sort of falls to the wayside, and then you forget to update your spreadsheet of who to thank in the mid-roll and whether or not we thanked them for joining our Patreon? I don't know if we already thanked Will and Gabby, but, you know, if we didn't, thanks Will and Gabby, and if we did, thanks Will and Gabby. This week, the Multitude podcast we want to tell you about is Join the Party, an actual play podcast with tangible worlds, genre-pushing storytelling, and collaborators who make each other laugh each week. Genuinely, the way I can plug this podcast to you is by telling you that it made me laugh so hard that I was listening to it while doing pottery, and I messed up the thing I was working on because I was laughing too hard. Like, when you're wheel throwing pottery, you need to be like really fluid and precise and just very intentional about your movements. And I just laughed so suddenly that I was like, ah! And then the piece kind of got thrown off course. So, highly recommend Join the Party, but not if you're doing pottery while listening to it. Join the Party is about to finish up their current campaign, a pirate story set in a world of plant and bug folk, or you can also marathon their completed stories because then you don't have to wait to find out what happens. There's the campaign, a Monster of the Week game set in a weird summer camp, Campaign 2, a modern superhero game, and also my favorite, and campaign 1 a high fantasy story. So, what are you waiting for? Listen and join the party, unless if you're currently doing pottery.
Let's finish by talking about, you wrote down a bullet point on our very sparse outline of the orcas are putting salmon on their heads.
Yeah, wait, okay. Can I finish off with like 3 fish-related rabbit holes that I've gone down? Just
Oh yeah,
real
also ciabatta.
Ciabatta. Okay, first of all, ciabatta was created in 1982. That feels way too late to me.
Yeah,
That's all. Like, I just think that
That's
it's
all.
like tiramisu. Like, these things shouldn't be as young as they are.
wait, when was tiramisu invented? The 60s and or 70s.
Yeah, see?
Huh.
I just feel like we shouldn't have more innovations in Italian cuisine. That it doesn't feel like it should be happening. I'm also lying about this. I would love for them to create Italian food too. Okay, second thing. The orcas are putting salmon on their heads. New style trend alert for the orcas on the Pacific Northwest coast, which is that they're wearing salmon hats again, which is a trend that was first described in the 1980s, where scientists and like whale watchers and stuff saw orcas wearing like a dead fish on their heads, like a hat. Salmon hat.
Wait.
And like, yeah, it's just salmon
I
hat.
just looked it up and wait, okay. Genuinely cannot tell if this picture, I think this picture's photoshopped. I'm gonna send it to you.
Oh, I'm excited.
But like, I want to find a real picture of it, but this picture looks fake.
That's a fake picture. Hold
Yeah.
on, I'll send you the article that I'm looking at, which does have a...
Why are orcas so weird?
I think they're very smart animals, and apparently this is a fad that they go through, where like one orca will start wearing a salmon on their head. I like how it follows a 20-year trend cycle, apparently, because apparently it was also happening in like the 2000s.
I can't find a picture of it. I'm only finding AI or... Why am I finding... I'm gonna send you another thing that I just found that I don't know why it's happening. Everything is AI slop.
Oh, this is so bad. Okay, it is a photo that says Happy Halloween with 2 orcas that have salmon on their heads, and the Happy Halloween is in Comic Sans.
And it's from Killer Whale Artist, a page on Facebook. It has 1.5 thousand followers. I don't know what to tell you.
Wait, here's one from 1987. Does that help?
But this still isn't a picture. Oh, wait, there's one. There's a picture, finally. Thank you. Yeah, they just have a salmon on their head.
Salmon on their head. New style trend alert.
Wow.
That's all. I just felt like people should know about that. 2 other things that I got into that were fish related, even though orcas are not fish. First, have you ever heard of the devil's hole pupfish?
No.
Okay, I looked into this Wikipedia page because of a tweet, which terrible. But basically, it is a critically endangered species of fish that is only found in Devil's Hole. And I'm just going to send you a photo of how big Devil's Hole is. And this is the entire range of this fish's habitat. So like, it is a fish that lives like the most miserable experience. It's living in like literally like a swimming pool.
Oh,
It
that
doesn't
sucks.
exist anywhere else. They keep trying to like put it into other places, and then it keeps like crossbreeding with other fish because it's a fucking evolutionary dead end. It lives in a swimming pool. The other thing they did is they created a 1-to-1 scale replica of this essentially swimming pool hole, and they were like, we're gonna start like a second area for these fish.
This feels like the eel.
It is like the eel, except the eel is like on purpose. Like that guy's just kind of like, I have a pit and I'm going to fill it with eels. This is like a naturally occurring pit full of fish. And then the other thing that happens is that people try to kill these fish because these fish existing means that a bunch of the area around it can't be developed. So it's truly kind of like a comical, like, we need to get rid of these fish, or hey, fuck these fish, they're taking up too much resources. And there are people who have bumper stickers with both, we love the devil's hole pupfish and we hate the devil's hole pupfish, essentially.
I love, like, geographic-based mini-drama.
Yeah, this is, like, truly, like, I cannot stress to you that this is a tiny fish in a swimming pool-sized location, and that is the entire breadth of its habitat. And it is obviously, like, critically endangered or something, because, again, it lives in a swimming pool. And then there's been, like, 4 or 5 attempts to, like, put it in other situations. Like, let's put this somewhere else and maybe we will create a bigger population. And they all failed until they were like, all right, second swimming pool. Apparently that's working.
Second swimming pool.
Second swimming pool. And last fish-related thing I would like to bring to you is I've been reading a book called Cod. So if you've been seeing, if you've looked at Libby recently on the San Antonio card, I've really been checking out books that have like 1-word names. And the first one is Cod. No, like, because I got linked to this from a Reddit comment. I was like, all right, I'm going to read a book about fish. And then it turned out to be like a book about the economics of the cod fishing industry, in the sense that where this fish was like truly determined where people were going to settle in like the new world, quote unquote, and also like what people were eating, because this was a fish that was like really easily salted and like stored and portable in a way that like other fish weren't. And also people were like, yeah, there's so much fish, we're going to just fish it all. And now we have ended up in a situation where there is not that much fish left. I would recommend it. That's not a
You
meme. That
read
was just a
books
book
about like the
recommendation.
most random shit, but I love it.
Yeah, listen, I'm out here learning about the world, and by the world I mean cod fishing industry. Now I'm reading a book called Salt, but which is by the same guy, because apparently this dude's whole like thing is just, we're gonna take like one food and just really dive in deep about it. And I'm like, all right, I'm here for it.
I read part of a book about mushrooms once.
Did you learn anything interesting about mushrooms?
I don't know, just that truffle hunting is really intense and people get crazy about it.
People get really weird about truffle hunting.
Yeah.
We should become truffle hunters. Have you considered doing that while you're on leave?
Yeah, I should become a truffle hunter.
So pottery, truffle hunting, what else are you gonna be doing? Chilling and vibing?
A lot of Pilates, maybe some other things that I don't want to talk about because then they give away the reasoning of the leave.
You were being so vague about this. You could have just made shit up.
Oh man, yeah, I'm going on leave to be a truffle hunter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm being vague about this. I feel like, when you're just like told that you shouldn't talk about things on the internet.
And yet you have a podcast. Curious.
Yeah, but the thing is that like you can really bury things in a podcast because if someone is trying to like dig up information on you, having to listen to your podcast is like a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Like, this is also how I felt about making internet friends in fandom, which is that like if we have spent 2 years talking about a random podcast D&D character together, you're probably not going to kill me. That would
Yeah.
be a crazy amount of investment. There are easier people to kill.
And on that note, thanks for hanging with us on this post-Thanksgiving vibe and hang naked knife fight episode of Wow True.
Amanda is going on leave to become a naked knife fighter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a truffle hunter.
And a truffle hunter. Hey, that would be an incredible character.
Yeah.
That's like a real like Silver Age comic book character that we've got here.
Going on leave to construct a whole new D&D campaign around the truffle hunting naked knife fighter. I will say I did make a joke of I'm going on leave to beat the last 3 Chaos Trials and Hades 2 that I haven't beaten, and I have beaten 2 of them.
One more to go.
One more to go. All right, bye.
Bye.